Good afternoon all. Welcome to the YouTube channel E-Pathshala. Please subscribe the YouTube channel E-Pathshala. This is Ramesh, Faculty of Biology. Okay students, today I am going to explain the lesson Cell, the basic unit of life. Already I started this lesson in previous class. So today I am going to continue that lesson. Okay, listen carefully, pay the concentrate. Okay, dear children, the history of science begins with the description of a thin section of oak tree by Robert Hooke in the year 1665. So Robert Hooke discovered the cell in the 1665. So he observed the nucleus in his own microscope. Already I told you there are three types of microscopes: simple microscope, compound microscope, electronic microscope. And who discovered, I explained clearly. Okay, dear students, many scientists try to describe unknown world with the help of microscopes. Among them, Athanasius Kircher, one of the scientists, John Swammerdam, and Robert Hooke, Anthony van Leeuwenhoek. Okay, Robert Hooke observed the cell once upon a time, in the year of 1665. He collected a thin slice of oak plant. So he placed on this slide and he observed under the microscope, that microscope, his own microscope. So while he is observing under the microscope, empty spaces are visible to Robert Hooke. He observed some empty spaces, some chambers he observed in that particular slice. So he called them cell. So cell in Latin language, cell means little room. Cell means little room. Okay, dear children, one of the scientists, that scientist name is Anthony van Leeuwenhoek. He was observed the microbial world. He was the first person to observe microbial world under the microscope in 1674. He was the first human to see living bodies. So what type of living bodies, what type of living organisms he observed under the microscope? Bacteria, protozoas, red blood cells, and teeming of life in a drop of water. So he collected a pond water and he put a drop of pond water on this slide and he observed under the microscope. Then some moving organisms are observed by Anthony van Leeuwenhoek. So those moving microorganisms are called firstly animalcules. So he was the first person to observe living bodies, microbial world under the microscope. That's why he was the father of microbiology. So what is microbiology? The study of microbes, the study of microorganisms, the study of minute organisms, the study of very small organisms is called microbiology. What is microbiology? So he was the first person to observe microorganisms under the microscope. That's why he was the father of microbiology. Who was the father of microbiology? Anthony van Leeuwenhoek. Okay, and next, in the previous class I explained you cell theory. The cell theory is proposed by Matthias Sladen and Theodor Schwann. Matthias Sladen was a German botanist and Theodor Schwann was the German zoologist. Botany, zoology, you know already about. Okay, in the year 1838, Matthias Sladen, a German botanist, examined a large number of plants and observed that all parts are composed different kinds of cells, which from tissues of the plant. And next, Theodor Schwann, in the year 1839, Theodor Schwann, a German zoologist, studied different types of animal cells. So like this way, Schwann observed animal cells and Sladen observed plant cells. So they only found this cell theory. So in that cell theory, they explained more than details. They explained clearly about plant cells and animal cells. Both scientists, who are they? Theodor Schwann and Matthias Sladen, they formulated cell theory, but they did not explain as how new cells were formed. So they explained what is the cells are formed from plant, the plant cells are formed from plants, the animal cells are formed from animals. So, but they didn't explain. They didn't explain how the new cells are formed. So one of the scientists, the scientist name is Rudolf Virchow. What is Rudolf Virchow? The scientist, Rudolf Virchow scientist, first examined. Rudolf Virchow is the scientist in the year 1855. First explained that cells divided and new cells are formed from pre-existing cells. So who is he? Rudolf Virchow. Rudolf Virchow, in the year 1855, he first explained the new cells are formed from pre-existing cells. So that is, they didn't explain. Who? Sladen and Schwann didn't explain. The new cells are formed from pre-existing cells. They didn't explain. Okay, here is. So the new cells are formed from pre-existing cells, means that is called as omnicellular and acellular. What is that? Omnicellular, acellular. Omnicellular, acellular. Omnicellular, acellular means the new cells are formed from pre-existing cells. That is the meaning of omnicellular and acellular. And Rudolf Virchow modified the hypothesis of Sladen and Schwann to give the cell theory final shape. So he was the first person to give the final shape of cell theory, Rudolf Virchow. So the cell theory as understood today is, first point, the pre-existing cells are formed from, the new cells are formed from pre-existing cells, and then all living organisms are composed of cells and product of cells. Again, all living organisms are composed of cells and products of cells. These 2 points are under this cell theory. Okay, all living organisms are composed of cells and product of cells. So here actually the human body or animal body, the organisms, what is, the organisms are formed by single cell and multi-cell, number of cells. Actually some organisms are formed by single cell, some organisms are formed by number of cells. So there is a single celled organisms, there is a multicellular organisms. Single cell organisms and multicellular organisms. Single celled organisms means single. So uni we are calling unicellular. Single means uni. Uni means single. The unicellular organisms and multicellular organisms. Multi means more than two. That means number of cells. Some microorganisms are formed by single cell. Some organisms are formed by single cell. Some organisms are formed by number of cells means multicellular cells. So the single cell organisms, examples of single cell organisms: protozoans means it's a phylum. What are protozoans? Amoeba, paramecium, euglena,